The Jewish Sects. Jewish sectarian, philosophical groups emerged because of experiences between the mid-5th century BCE to the 1st century CE. With Greek invasion, the spread of Hellenism and the invasion of the Romans, the Jewish diaspora struggled to deal with foreign rule and cultural influences without sacrificing their own identity. These experiences gave rise to sectarian development with the Jewish diaspora. To quench cultural and religious tensions, individual communities saw the rise and subsequent development of various sectarian groups. Flavius Josephus notes that the Jews had three sects of philosophy peculiar to themselves: the sect of the Theessenes, and the sect of the seduces, and the third sort of opinions was that of those called Pharisees. From the various fractions of sectarian groups which emerged, only two schools of thoughts played a major role or had any impact in the New Testament. Although they were all Jewish sectarian groups, they were quite different and reacted to their developing world in their individual way. The Pharisees. The word Pharisee means separated ones, and comes from the Hebrew word peruzim. They were known for their extreme rules of separation from unclean things, places and people, as is seen in the Gospels. They were the most accurate of all the groups in interpreting and transmitting the Hebrew law. The Pharisees saw it as their divine right to call for, and pressed for greater attention to the observance of the Jewish law in everyday life. They called for revival in key areas of life such as Sabbath observance, fasting, tithing, and especially ritual purity. Those who were accepted within this sect had to abide by the established written or unwritten rules and regulations. They were not only the interpreters of the law, but they were also the watchdogs who ensured that the law was followed and observed. This picture is clearly painted in all four Gospels. They reprimanded the public for various offenses. The seduces were the elitists, who were the real power brokers within Judaism. They were quite exclusive and did not allow the poor or the outcast within their ranks. Because of their exclusive lifestyle, they were often disliked by the common people. Their influence was quite far-reaching, and with the temple being the center of society, their status as priest connected them with the temple. They dominated the temple worship and its rites and rituals, and continued to do so for over 40 years, until the party of the Pharisees took control of the priesthood. They held a majority position within the Sanhedrin, the supreme Jewish council and tribunal of the Second Temple. They were liberal in their willingness to incorporate Hellenism into their lives. They strove to maintain their existence and role in society and would often fight and negotiate with the Romans and heathen nations. Unlike the Pharisees, they did not believe in the oral law. This was because of their liberal attitude toward Hellenistic influences. They also insisted on a literal interpretation of the written law. They rejected the writings and prophetic sections of the Jewish scriptures. As a result, they did not believe in life after death, or even the resurrection as the Pharisees did. The Essenes Jewish wise man Philo of Alexandria mentions that the Essenes numbered about 4,000 at their peak. They existed from the 2nd century BCE to the end of the 1st century CE. There is a certain level of mystery surrounding this Jewish sect. Their existence was established with the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls in 1947. They, unlike the Pharisees and the seduces, who wanted to interact with Rome, sought to disassociate themselves. They isolated themselves by forming a community and settled on the northwest shore of the Dead Sea in Qumran. They rejected the Herods, the temple and the priesthood, which they saw as being corrupt. They lived an extreme life, one that was more rigid than that of the Pharisees. Their Sabbath rules and purity rules pushed them to live as Nazarites. This group, though they lived in isolation from the rest of Judaism, were later destroyed by the Romans before the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem in 70 CE. The fourth philosophy. The final group of Jews which is mentioned by Josephus is not given a name. He simply calls it the fourth philosophy. They played a major role in the formation of the New Testament world, and the subsequent destruction of the Jerusalem temple. The fourth philosophy comprised groups of Jews who were advocates of extreme nationalism. They believed that the Romans had wrongfully taken possession of the Promised Land. Members of this group would carry out violent acts, using daggers to stab government workers, and were usurpers of the government which was rigid on observing justice. Their rejection of the Roman control system pushed them to become revolutionaries. They desired the independence of the Jewish nation, both politically and spiritually. Through various means they sought to upset the status quo, using pragmatic methods. To achieve their perceived independence, they would often be engaged in various activities including selective assassinations, general assassinations and kidnappings.